New tariff announcements on semiconductors are coming soon, and this will include a re-adding of rate hikes on computers, phones, and electronics that were temporarily given a pause, or at least a reduction back down to the 20% that China was imposed with. And this is an article from the New York Post talking about this by Ryan King, which says Trump says no exemptions for iPhones and other Chinese-made electronics, suggests new tariff is coming. Now, President Trump settled the debate over the tariffs on iPhones and other Chinese-made devices, saying there is no exception and that new duties are coming. He said nobody's getting off the hook on Truth Social on Sunday. There was no tariff exception announced on Friday. These products are subject to the existing 20% fentanyl tariffs, and they are just moving to a different tariff bucket. We are taking a look at semiconductors and the whole electronics supply chain in the upcoming national security tariff investigations. Late in the day Friday, Trump teams filed a rule that exempted a myriad of electronic devices from the president's steep reciprocal tariff on the Chinese imports to the U.S. With this, we all know. The ruling appeared to grant a reprieve for Apple and other consumer electronic makers, which were facing tariffs of up to 145%. More than 80% of Apple products are assembled in China. Whoops, according to the data from Evercore ISI. Apple CEO Tim Cook has courted close relations with Trump amid the tariff push. Now, prior to Trump's clarification Sunday, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick publicly explained that electronics being imported from China will soon face their own unique tariff. So what he is doing, he's saying they're exempt from reciprocal tariffs, but they're included in the semiconductor tariffs, which are coming in probably a month or two, so these are coming soon.
Remember, those products are going to be part of the semiconductor sectoral tariffs, which are coming. So you're going to see this week there'll be a register in the Federal Registry. There'll be a notice put out. That is different types of work. So we're going to do that. We did that in autos. The president's going to do it for pharmaceuticals, and he's going to do it for semiconductors. So all those products are going to come under semiconductors.
Last Wednesday, as Trump's suite of customized reciprocal tariff rates were set to go into effect, the president abruptly reversed course. Did he, though? And announced a 90-day pause while his team negotiates new deals with various countries. Trump remarked that people were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
You started the morning saying be cool, and just a few hours later, there was a pause put in on the tariffs. Can you walk us through your thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know? They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions. Because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents. They wouldn't have done it.
Now, China is America's third largest trading partner, the New York Post writes. What has been exposed is that we need to make products in the United States and that we will not be held hostage by other countries, especially hostile trade nations like China, which will do everything within their power to disrespect the American people. Right now, electronic products from China still face other tariffs, such as the 20% rate Trump imposed earlier this year amid his complaints against China's role in the fentanyl crisis. Now, Lutnick added that we need to have semiconductors, we need to have chips, and we need to have flat panels. We need to have these things made in America. We cannot be reliant on Southeast Asia for all of the things that operate for us. Now, my friends, what's happening here between Trump and his team is classic Trump negotiation tactics. It's all part of the Trump pattern. What those with TDS on the left and in the media fail to recognize is that Donald Trump is not blinking on anything right now. This is nothing more than him dangling flexibility to calm markets and consumers, and then he will double down to force manufacturing shifts, as well as bringing the rest of the world to the table. It is a high-stakes game that he is playing in his effort to reshape the world's economy, with one of the priorities here of pushing China out of competition for world superpower status, and at the bare minimum to keep China out of markets until they comply with what the rest of the world does. In other words, to play fair for the first time in 25 years.
You know, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also, but somebody had to do it. They had to stop because it was not sustainable.
This is all about the bigger picture with Donald Trump. It is the need to dismantle China's superpower ambitions. Giving temporary exemptions from the 145% rates is giving U.S. tech giants like Apple and Nvidia time to stay in the game, while Trump pushes for them to shift their supply chains to other countries, be it here in the US or other smaller, more friendly nations with cheaper labor. By announcing that more tariffs are coming in the world of electronics, he is signaling not only to world leaders, but more importantly, perhaps, to the tech giants themselves that they better get a move on if they want to stay in the game. He is giving them a runway to act, but letting them know that the clock is ticking. And what I find really fascinating about all of this is that the media and all their talking heads refuse to see the forest from the trees when it comes to China. Donald Trump understands that Chinese leaders are our enemies who are playing the long con, an empire that has spared no expense to put itself in a position to be able to hold the entire world hostage and cripple any who would oppose them. Now, one of the critical ways that China has done this is their near monopoly on something called rare earth elements, or REE. They control about 80% of the world's supply and 95% of processing for these materials, thanks to them bankrupting other companies and other processing plants like those here in the US because of their cheap slave labor that allowed them to undercut the wages here. The rest of the world has been asleep all this time at the wheel, as the ideology of evil, communism and socialism, has continued to fester and rebuild its strength following the collapse of the USSR. Now, what makes China's control of the rare earth elements so dangerous is the critical nature of them. These 17 metals that make up the rare earth elements are critical for magnets, batteries, and electronics. For example, you want to power those electric vehicle motors and wind turbines? There's no workaround if you don't have those REEs. And even if other countries mine these rare earth elements, like Australia or even here in the US, they often send them to China right now for processing due to the cost and expertise. This is giving China leverage over the entire pipeline. This has set them up for the entire world to have a global dependency on them. Semiconductors, for example, are in everything. They're in phones, they're in cars, medical devices, defense systems, think F-35 jets, missile guidance systems, AI drones, and more. China could effectively cripple the entire world's war readiness if they are left unchecked. And China has made it clear that they're aiming to be 70% chip self-sufficient by the year 2030, which is not that far away. China is not just about being a supplier to the rest of the world. They are putting themselves into position to control the future of technology, and this cannot be allowed to happen. Now is the time to act, my friends. In fact, it might even already be too late, or it would be at least, without a leader like Trump willing to crash the entire Chinese market to stop them. Imagine Germany pre-World War II. The growing threat that the entire world could see, but kept looking the other way until it was too late and the entire world was put on the brink of being consumed by that very evil. In fact, all of Europe would be speaking German now if it hadn't been for the US riding in to save the day. I believe that we are literally replaying the same dark game right now. The ambitions of this communist empire will not rest until the entire world is enslaved to them, be it through economic means or others. It's all just a matter of time.